Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 182, first of the new year. Super excited to be back. Apologize for the delays and having most of December off. We're also here with Marty.
Hello, how's it going, everybody?
Again, I apologize. I had originally planned to only be off for a week or two when I had moved over here to Africa, and then my mother died in the middle of that. So I had to kind of handle that whole, family thing. So finally back here in Africa, finally getting settled down. I'll be moved to my more permanent place here in about 2 weeks. And then we'll be back on our normal schedule. But in the meantime, we're going to try and stick in a couple of random shows here and there, and we'll see what happens. What's new with you, Marty? I saw you do a lot of construction and a lot of different stuff on your grow there. What's new with you?
Yeah, so I'm in the bedroom right now, which is currently under construction, but got a cloner set up, got a little veg system set up, the same one that used to be in the garage over there, just set it up again. So it's just I think it's a 150-gallon aquarium, and then there's just a media bed that sits on top, a couple supports. You guys can, if you want to see what that looks like, you can look up any of my grows on APMeds YouTube channel. They're all over there. So yeah, I put up the scrog nets, I think, since the last, I don't remember everything I've done since the last time we talked, but so the scrog nets are up. So really just getting everything established and getting ready to switch to flower still. So I've got a couple light holes I got to patch up. And,
Do you want
so I'll be
to touch on
covering up the last wall with end paper.
You want to touch on the speed of growth that you got? Because your plant's really rocketed.
Yeah, some of them, right now I don't have the consistency that I want. Like some of them are really outgrowing other ones because I just got plants from someone else and transplanted them. I didn't when I when I moved, I didn't bring any plants with me or keep any of them alive or do any of that. Everything was pretty well shut down during the move. So I got plants from someone else, and whenever you do that and you transplant them and you do all that, you don't get quite the consistency as when you're cloning yourself in your own system. So I've got about 3 plants now that are behind, 3 plants that are like way ahead, and everybody else kind of in the middle. But yeah, so if you guys are in the aquaponic cannabis growers group or follow me on Instagram at APMeds, then you'll see there's one of the ones, it's what is it, Pineapple by Banana Frost. It was the first one I put in, and it got established really quickly, and was a really healthy plant when it went in. So it kind of the perfect storm, and it's just exploding with growth. It was also re-vegged a little bit, and that clone cut has kept some of those monster crop characteristics, even though this particular cut wasn't, or this particular generation wasn't monster cropped a lot. It still like throws a lot more nodes than other ones. At least that's what I heard from the guy that I got them from. So he's a pretty reputable guy. I've known him for a while, so I assume that has something to do with it. But it's just, I mean, I haven't measured it or anything, but I would say, easily 4 inches or so a day, just growing gangbusters and taking cuts. I'm taking probably like especially the stuff off the bottom and under the net that I don't worry about anyway. I'm probably taking about, I would say, 10 clones every 3 or 4 days, just because they just keep popping up under there, and there's no room in the canopy left. It's all just thick, where you're almost to the point where you're training the plant to itself in some situations. And so just taking some cuts out to thin it up a little bit. It should probably be in flower already. That's what it comes down to. But again, because I don't have that consistency, some of the plants that are behind, I want to give them a little bit more time so I'm thinning out some of the bigger ones. But definitely seeing some great growth, which we're always accustomed to in aquaponics, and especially the ceramic metal halide lights. I feel like they're wide spectrum in veg, or full spectrum, I guess, is the technical term. Really does a great job in veg particularly. I prefer LED for flowering, but I don't have that deep of pockets right now, so we'll get there eventually. I do want to do a mix though. I think eventually I'll replace half of my lights with LED and keep some ceramic metal halide in there. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. By then I might need to move a bunch of lights into my light depth, so we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, that's the kind of stuff that I'm doing. I still have some plants that I'm treating, trying to save the genetics of. So I got those growing out enough now to where I've taken some cuts off of them. And then I can get rid of these plants that are riddled with pests. So some of you guys who are here for the commercial cannabis class that we did, we had some plants here to look at so we could check out some pests. And still have some of those genetics hanging around. There's probably 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or so left that still need to be grown out. And so for these plants, it was an interesting combination of bugs, because when they got here, they had a combination of root aphids and a pretty heavy infestation of spider mites. And so those two in combination can make it difficult to even grow a plant out to be able to clone it, because the root aphids will be attacking those any root zone and new growth that comes out and really just slowing down the growth of the plant. And that's really what you rely on in order to grow a plant out, in order to take cuts off of it and clean those cuts up and save the genetics off of it. So definitely need to continue treating the spider mites and killing off the root aphids at the same time. So got some Sonya Bavaria, is that how you say it? I don't remember. What is it, Steve? I gotta look again.
Sonya Bavaria or Bavaria Basania. I always forget which one's first.
Where'd it go? Anyway, so the one that I could find here locally was Botanigar. So that's what this stuff is right here. Comes with this big long fold out. So yeah, Bavaria Basania. There we go. Anyway, so I went through it and treated all of them with a root drench and a spray, and have just been knocking them down with like Dr. Symes and stuff like that. So now I have the bedroom set up, which is great, because then I can keep all that isolated from the flower room and not really have to crowd plants out while I'm working on stuff. That's always difficult. I think I probably should have waited a little bit longer to get plants, because I needed to really finish construction, so I'm not like bouncing back and forth between like moving plants around so I can work on stuff over here, and then I got to move them back over there, and then it just kind of becomes a shuffle game, kind of like those little puzzles you get where you can, there's only one square missing and you've got to slide everything around in order to get everything where you want it to go. That's kind of how it's been around here. But it's really going good. I'm really happy to have 2 separate rooms now and systems set up on both sides, and the cloner in, and lights up, so it's definitely been a ride so far, but everything is going pretty good. And yeah, fun stuff. What's up in Africa, dude? Haven't talked to you since you've been over there. How many hours total did you spend on the plane? I know you figured it out.
Oh yeah. So I had flight delays coming back over here, so I ended up with 40-hour journey or 42-hour journey to get back here after my mom's funeral. So for the month of December, I was either in an airport or on a plane for like 112 hours. Something retarded between going to the Dragonfly which was incredible. I haven't even had a chance to talk about it. The Dragonfly Earth Medicine Pure Hive Collective, which was really inspiring and really rejuvenating, out in Humboldt, and then flying out here, and then flying back to the funeral, and then flying back here again. Really, I've just been through every airport you can think of here, and yeah, it's just been crazy. But Zimbabwe is a lot of fun, just trying to get everything sorted, um, getting all the paperwork for residency sorted, getting all the seeds legally transported here with their phytosanitary certificates, and all that whole long list of issues that come along with trying to export cannabis seeds from North America to Southern Africa, which is a whole circus in and of itself. The Dragonfly Earth Medicine Hive Symposium was really amazing. Really enjoyed it. Lots of really cool people there. Ethan Russo was there. Frenchie was there. Dragonfly, numerous pure farmers. Really learned a lot. Was able to take in a lot of amazing information. And super grateful to Josh and Kelly for really helping organize and put to work a lot of the people that really have the knowledge to change things. And I can't think of anybody that motivates people better than those two. They're kind of the king and queen of motivation, especially in the organic cannabis side. And we wouldn't be where we are without them. And I'm super grateful to be part of that, and could not be more happy to have gone out there and then dealt with stuff with my mom, and then finally came back here and just grinding. Went out to the farm, just kind of trying to figure out last minute irrigation stuff, last minute well and pump stuff, and then working on IMO collection, trying to get a bunch of mycorrhizal fungi. It was much easier to find even in a dry, arid climate than I ever would have thought, especially now that I know where to look. It was really cool to walk around and with some of the growers there and be like, hey, you need to look underneath the bark of these roots here, or these fallen trees, or wherever. And as soon as we found a bunch of examples, they kind of clicked all of a sudden. And then 10 minutes later, they have like a whole bushel full of mycorrhizal fungi bark and everything else, and it was super great. So just trying to bring them up to speed with a lot of the methodologies that we have, and the wonderful things that I've had the luck and been blessed enough to learn from all the soil community and everything else to get the large field production going. And then just trying to work out logistics for getting the aquaponics equipment going. We're going to have a couple of aquaponic greenhouses here on the upper flat, and then we'll have a bunch of just field acreage production for both isolate production and seed production out here. We have 750 acres to work with and 3 wells, so we can kind of do whatever we do. It's an old tobacco farm, so we have big giant drying barns, because the tobacco guys used to dry their the tobacco there, and we have all that infrastructure and everything built in, which is really nice. A lot of the irrigation main lines are there. Everything just kind of needs to be upgraded or brought up to speed or repaired. One of those 3 things. But a lot of the main things to have is really in place already, so it's not a big deal. We'll have everything dragged out so that we can plant here pretty quick, and then our seeds should get here end of next week or the week after, depending on how long it takes for transit, and we'll be off to the races. Big shout out to Joshua Steensland and all the help he's been on this project. Definitely hooked us up in numerous different ways to help make this project possible. So it's been a lot of fun. And then just trying to learn what's going on here in Zimbabwe. I've had everything from stuff that looks like old Mexican swag to stuff that was just basically ground up leaves to some of the best sativa that I've had in quite a long time. So it's been quite a roll of the dice when it comes to local stuff. You don't really know what you're going to get until you actually see it. Everyone's definition of good stuff is quite varied.
What's your growing season like over there?
We don't really have one. We can grow year round. Right now it's the summer, but we're about as far away from the equator as Jamaica. Yeah, so we're about equal to Jamaica in terms of distance from the equator. So we have pretty much can grow year round. We do have it will get cooler. They can get frost for 2 or 3 hours in the dead of winter on the coldest of nights, but generally it doesn't get down that cold. especially where we are out in the Midlands. It's not, it's a little bit more favorable, a little bit warmer. We don't really get the high highs and the low lows, kind of, right where we are, kind of that sweet spot. So it's one of the reasons why we chose the farm where we did. And we have two very distinct soil types at the farm. We have a nice black, rich soil full of organic material. And we have a more red, more clay and iron rich soil. So that needs to be amended a little bit more. We're going to amend that with some both green manure and then mammalian manure. We have a whole giant farm right next door to us that does a whole bunch of cattle and goats, and they pen them up at night so we can kind of raid their pens kind of at will for for very little and have kind of almost an unlimited supply of manure there that's locally sourced. That's literally one property over, so you just drive the truck over and shovel it in. So it works out really good for us, and we're also able to help the locals out quite a bit. We're going to provide jobs that are going to pay better than anything they would have had before in that area, certainly. So super stoked on that. So we bounce between around 10 hours and 45 minutes and 14 and a half hours, depending on the time of year, or something like that, 14 and 10. So we have about a 2-hour variance at most off of 12-12, never more or less, much less than that. Actually, it's not even 2 hours, about an hour and a half, I think, hour and 40 minutes, something like that, a variance from 12-12. So got a totally different way of thinking. Your plants don't get quite as big, but and you also look for plants, there's definitely some cultivars that aren't auto flower, but certainly have kind of a minimum veg time. I know I've grown quite a few that were like that, and they kind of are going to veg for a nice period of time before they're going to flower no matter what. Go ahead.
I remember we talked to Mr. Green Jeans about that a little bit, because he was talking, flowers from seed a lot of times because he only has one room, and that some strains will have that a lot longer minimum veg time. They won't go into flower right away from seed. Now from clone, obviously you don't really have that same kind of timing, but from seed, as long as you already know, and I imagine you're probably going to test a number of them, right? Kind of see which
we're
keep veg time.
Yeah, so we have a couple of kind of bread and butter stuff that we're going to know we're going to just be able to flip the seed on, or we have a contract where we're just being hired to bulk out seed under contract and then kick it back. We have a couple of different things like that, and then we're also doing some isolate production. Just because of the export laws right now, you're pretty much stuck doing either isolates or seed production at the moment. So that really limits us on what we can do, but we are shotgun blasting because we have an R&D license and a medical license, kind of shotgun blasting a whole bunch of different seeds that we can do just to see what is the soil optimized to do in that particular area. We have a little bit higher manganese, so THC and THCV is going to express a little bit better because of that, and because we're a little bit warmer climate, THC is also going to be expressed a little bit better. It's just that's a little bit harder market to kind of move over borders right now. So we're trying to steer away from THC specific stuff, although we do have some other things for that in the future. Hey, we got Joshua Steensland joining us. How's it going, Josh?
It's going good, man. How you doing? Thanks for inviting me up.
Hell yeah. What's new with you, buddy? You just finished up a big harvest.
Yeah, we just finished it up. We're actually starting to line up our sales. We did about 600,000 hemp plants this last season, spread out over just a little over 100 acres. So, and it's a little more densely packed than we would like to have seen, but we had all the plants available, and we didn't, the farm we were partnering with didn't have the acreage prepped enough. So we just kind of double planted where we could and didn't get too hung up on it. And it ended up working out really well for us. And we're sitting on several 100,000 pounds of material right now. And it's really nice quality compared to what we're seeing with other folks coming to market. So we're feeling really blessed and good. And it's a heck of a time to be in the cannabis business.
Now you're one of the few organic certified hemp producers out there. Do you want to tell us more about that and how hard that was to try and achieve?
Yeah, no, it's definitely a lot of hoops. We were fortunate enough to partner with a farm that had already had certified organic acreage. They were doing blueberries. We actually interplanted with the blueberries this year, which a lot of people were like, "Oh, the acidic soil." But you know, we did a lot of research and we talked with the farmer who farms the blueberries, and you know, we just kind of figured that the root ball of the blueberries is really small. And so the amount of soil that's being treated for the acidic nature of that plant is relatively minimal. And so we were planted in between those rows. And when we did our pH testing of the rows in between the blueberries, it was perfect. So we just went ahead and went with it, and it worked out really well. We were really happy with it. We were able to pick up an additional 35 acres of USDA certified land by interplanting. And it happens to work really well. They finished their harvest the first week of July for the blueberries. So it left it right perfect for us to just drop stuff in after they were done harvesting. So there's really no disturbance or anything, and it really worked out quite well. We were really happy with it. But everything else, the farm, they have all their ducks in a row. The farm manager works really closely with the USDA inspectors. We actually hired a guy who was a former inspector for the Washington State Department of Agriculture, and he's also a brilliant agronomist. He's going to be coming with us to help on the Africa projects as well. A really great guy, and I know I talked to you privately about this, but I would kind of like to publicly thank you for inviting us in and on this project. We're really excited. For those that don't know, me and my really good best friend, we started a company called Grow to Give, and we're basically just trying to do hemp anywhere and everywhere we can. And what we're doing with farmers locally is we're trying to just convince farmers in conventional agriculture or regular agriculture to maybe devote 25% of their acreage to hemp and see what it can do for them. Because I think farmers can start to run debt-free farms if they just incorporate a little bit of their acreage to hemp. And so we're picking up a lot of traction. People seeing our success this year locally, and we just picked up it's 500, but we're going to try to make it 1,000. So we're doing at least a 500 acres here in Washington next year. Partnering with a huge farm, Johnson Ag, and they do all certified organic as well. So I think the key is not having to reinvent the wheel, and literally just like partnering with folks who know the all the hoops to jump through and know the GAP practices and the standards and all that. And that way we don't walk into it like, a baby deer in the headlights.
Absolutely. And I had the pleasure of going out and touring your wonderful grow out there and seeing the Innerspace Blueberries and seeing a whole bunch of different things. You did a whole bunch of awesome experimentation on different irrigation methods and different plant spacing and all kinds of different variables that kind of people don't really think about, but you did it at scale in side by sides. And I don't know if you want to talk about any of that, or if you don't, which is fine too. But I really learned a lot from going out and visiting it, seeing that. And maybe you want to touch on a little bit, what worked, what didn't, or if you want to keep that to yourself, that's fine too. But maybe just talk about some of the everything maybe you did try.
Totally. Yeah, I think some of it I've kind of have free reign to discuss, but some of it we're getting into NDA territory, which is really unfortunate. Sure. And I've had it's been such a conflict for me, because over the years I've been so free with my information that there's this expectation, of open sharing. But now when you get to a certain level and you've got partners and people, intellectual property, you get into this weird realm where you've got to kind of protect what you've got. And so I can discuss some of it. We did do some experimentation with watering under pivot, which, for those of you that don't know, it's those big circle arm things that go over the top of a conventional crop that waters from above. And And I know the first thing everybody's going to say is like, oh my God, the mold and mildew. And that's what we were concerned about that too. We actually were going to use the pivot for the veg cycle. And then once flower was initiated, then we were going to switch and turn it into a drip style irrigation system. But we just continued to go with the pivot, and it happened to work in our favor. We didn't have any mold, any mildew, any botrytis. And I think that really speaks to the strength of your cultivation practices. So we front loaded everything. We basically treated it like a living soil situation where we put all the nutrients available at the beginning and then just let the plant pick and choose what it needed throughout the season. And we did great. We did hands down better than anybody around us. All of our cultivation buddies down in Southern Oregon, they had a hell of a time last year, and we just kind of breezed through it. And
I'd love to just support what you're saying on that. You know, if you have your healthy soil with your healthy microbes in the beginning, that's the single best way to mitigate those fungal infections. If you have microbes that are in there and they're actively eating that fusarium, that botrytis, that septoria, you're not going to have these problems. We even talked about this when I was out there. You know where you see those problems in people that replant corn, soybean, or wheat fields that had done zero additional microbial inoculation. It just they end up with these huge, massive failures or fungal infection across 2/3 of the field or half the field. I don't know if I saw a single grow in Oklahoma that was outdoor didn't have at least a few plants that had fusarium or septoria, you know, and it was just because they didn't pay attention to the soil. Yet you have to treat that soil ahead of time.
Yeah, so true, man. Absolutely.
Did you have anything else maybe you learned that you're allowed to share? Not necessarily on your particular grow, but maybe just things you picked up over the year of 2019 that really stuck out on you that you're wanting to share?
Sure. No, I think just the kind of the struggles of scaling, realizing how much energy and time it takes to cultivate 100 acres, and not necessarily once the plants are in, but getting them in and then getting them out was the biggest eye opener for us. The harvest. I mean, it was semi-load after semi-load after semi-load. I mean, probably 900 semi-loads it took us to get everything out. And when we, there would come a time when we thought we were doing really good. We had a lot of headway down, and then we headed back out to the farm, and we're driving down the hill and looking down at the circle where we were harvesting, and just this little sliver had been harvested. And there were a couple moments this harvest season where I was like, are we going to be able to finish this? Like, are we going to be able to get all this material in? It was crazy. So I learned a lot of lessons about how to manage large crews of like day laborers and working with the contractors that provide those laborers. These guys get paid really, really well, and they work really freaking hard. And it was just really humbling to see 200 people. We had 200 people helping us with harvest, and all of them were migrant labor that worked with a highly reputable company, all taken care of a really high wage. And they were super happy and thrilled to be working in the cannabis space, so there was this buzz around it. They weren't out there working in the grapes or anything. Like, they were working with cannabis. A lot of them were like, man, this does not look like hemp. They were certain it was weed. But so those were the biggest ones for me, was managing acreage at scale, and then managing the logistics of managing such a large workforce, was trying, to say the least.
Yeah, it's always funny to see people that have never seen a field of weed, and they're just like they don't even know what to do with themselves.
Yeah, they're like, boss, I don't think this is hemp, boss. Yeah, trust me. Like, oh, okay. They were certain it was high THC.
So, are you doing any talks or anything else soon? I think you're doing some stuff coming up.
Nope, no, I've actually been I laid off of social media for this summer so I could focus on the hemp project and we could focus on Grow to Give. You know, we've got this thing coming online with Africa. We're hoping to be coming down there with you next month, and spending a little time. And then we've also got a South American project going on, and then we've got this 500-acre deal. So I've been really uh, unavailable of sorts. I haven't made myself available to the cannabis community at large, just in general, because I've been so dialed in to what we've got going on. So I haven't. I was super bummed that I couldn't make it to the Hive conference. Josh and Kelly extended the invitation, and I had every intention on going. It just harvest took twice as long as we expected, and then we had inventory, and then we had just security. We've got a lot of money tied up in the warehouse in hemp right now, and so we're not feeling too comfortable leaving until we get that product out of the warehouse and convert it into cash. And so you know, I think right now my main focus is just making sure that I'm present and focused on these deals. I am speaking, I'm getting together with Tara, I think tomorrow night, and Josh and Kelly, and we're going to talk about some of the most recent information that I've been made aware of in regards to feminized seed and how healthy it is, and what the potential pitfalls of that might be. So folks might want to tune in for that. That's the most recent kind of engagement that I've got going on. It's tomorrow night, I think it's 6 with Tara. But after
Yeah, is
that,
that
I'm going to be back to the grind.
I know some of that stuff was supposed to come out in December. Is that still kind of trickling out, or is that out there in the open now?
I've got to reach out to Benjamin, my contact at the University of Florida, who's the guy who's kind of really really opened my eyes to this whole thing, and I'm going to try to get him to send me as much of the information that he has, white paper wise and all that, and maybe even like some bullet points that would be the best way to kind of address his main concerns about the feminized seed, the feminization process, how the body interacts with it once you've consumed anything that was feminized. You know, until I get his okay, or I get that little packet from him, which he's a super busy guy. We're supposed to be meeting up with him sometime in the next couple weeks, and so I don't think I'll have that available by tomorrow, but I'm hoping within the next 30 days I'll be able to do a post and maybe schedule a talk, and then have a little packet available that I could give to Josh and Kelly, and then we can start disseminating it amongst the relevant folks who are going to actually read it and try to absorb some of that material. So
Definitely let me know, because I'd love to help get the word out without spilling the beans. There's some big information coming down the pipeline about feminization, and you guys are going to want to know about it. And we'll make sure that we cover it when the time is right.
Cool.
What else is new with you? What are you looking forward to in the next year? I know you got some really cool stuff going on in South America. Do you want to mention any of that? Or?
Well, the South America thing, we're working directly with the government of Suriname. They're opening up for hemp and medical cannabis, and this is one of those where I'm kind of in a strict NDA, because there's some really big players involved here, but I can say it's going to involve it's going to involve a beverage of some kind, and then we're also doing hemp there, so like a THC beverage, and then and with a big large distributor. So I've probably said too much already, but I'm excited about that. That's something that we feel, if it goes right, it could help push like a kind of a global thing happening because of our contacts there and who's getting involved. Some really like juggernaut style distribution network at play here, and we're really hoping that that it works out. But as you're intimately aware of, being there in Zimbabwe, overseas stuff, it it's hoops after hoops and zigzags after zigzags. So we're always, you know, you don't have the same luxuries you do when doing business in the United States, whereas you have laws that you can fall back on and protections, you know, to a certain degree. Whereas when you go to someone else's house, you kind of play by their rules. And so we've learned a couple hard lessons in South America, but we're not letting it stop us. We're letting it steal our resolve, and we're going to move forward on the project. And so South America is exciting. I'm really excited about the Zimbabwe thing. I think there's a lot of opportunity to do really good things there. And that's what we're most interested in Grow to Give, is we're most interested in setting up in places where we can have the most positive effect. You know, there's a million people cultivating hemp. You know, there's a million acres being cultivated, or gonna be a million acres being cultivated here in the States. I mean, it's gonna be ridiculous. But, and so we're just a drop in the bucket here. But if we can help farmers in other places where it's going to have a more profound effect, that's where we're the most interested. Because it's not about the money. You know, you do 50 acres properly, you're going to have plenty of money. So it's not about that. It's about taking the capital that we're going to make on these projects stateside, and then using that to put that money in other places where we could do the most good. And I think Zimbabwe is one of those places. South America is certainly, Suriname is certainly one of those places. And you know, I think for 2020, that's our vision, pushing out. You know, so I'd like to have a handful of projects, about 5 projects that we can, you know, I think that we can manage with our team, and we can just focus on those 5 and do the most good we can.
Absolutely. Yeah, that was one of the big reasons why I got involved with this Africa project was, hey, we can actually generate food off of our greenhouses. We can teach them agricultural practices that they've never been exposed of. I know just this week, I showed them how to collect both IMO and how to find mycorrhizal fungi just in the little tiny scrub patch of forest that was between us and the next door neighbors. And they had no idea that was even there. These guys have lived there their whole lives and had no idea about mycorrhizal fungi, but I was able to show them in 5 minutes worth of poking around, you know, and it was just so cool to kind of show some of the amazing things that we've had the blessings of learning about through the different channels that we have access to, and spreading that to people that really actually need this to help with water, you know, water use, and reducing water use in fields, and all these different methodologies that can help them, especially in drought areas in Africa. I mean, crap, if you saw the maize here, the maize should be at least waist high right now, and most of it's not even knee high, because they haven't had any rain.
Right.
You know, and most of these guys don't have irrigation. They plant their seeds and hope for the best.
Right.
And yeah, it's really going to change a lot. So I think we're going to try and get a regular scheduled, you know, education class going on Sundays or something, like Sunday afternoons, where we teach maybe a 2 or 3 hour course on how, just stuff that we can help whatever problems they're having. Not preaching to them on you know, philosophical bullshit on botany, just what shit that's relevant, you know.
Practical shit. Yeah, exactly. Practical. This is what you could do. I think JDAM ferments would be an awesome thing to implement. Those are some of the things. I did a little bit of work in the West Indies and St. Kitts and Nevis, and a real similar situation where we went way back into the bush and to some of these ganja grows, and these guys have just been cultivating this way for generations, and they didn't even understand. They understood after we explained it to them, but they didn't even know about cloning or propagation or any of that. And they were just like, what? They were just completely blown away. And then we was able to introduce simple fermentation techniques like the JDAM ferments that don't require the brown sugar, that are at least going to be better. And it's just a simpler process. Not that they didn't have the ability to comprehend, you know, the osmotic pressure and all that stuff. You know, it's just that the ability to pack 50 pounds of brown sugar deep up into the bush, you know, whereas if they got water, you got all this green material, start fermenting, guys. Like, just pick shit, ferment it, use it. What doesn't work, remember it. What does, remember it. I think we could do the same type of thing in Zimbabwe. or any of these other places where resources might be limited, cash might be limited. You know, it's a good way to capture those resources that they have right there locally, and use them to their advantage, for sure.
Absolutely. Just showing them the whole concept that there's all of these resources that are just right around them that they didn't see as resources before really is life changing. I know it sure as hell was life changing for me as a cannabis grower,
Yeah.
but for people that need this to live, this is you know, a whole other level of life changing. So it's super stoked to be able to help them on multiple levels and give them good paying jobs. You know,
Yeah.
we're paying quite a bit above the normal wage for our growers, and you know, I'm happy to do that. You know, still cheaper than the U.S. either way, but you know, it definitely gives people, they live up, you know, they without giving away the exact amounts, they're living, you know, definitely on the upper end of the income level for the country. I'll put it that way.
Absolutely. We run into the same type of thing in Suriname, where, you know, the cost of living is so much lower. And so, and a lot of times things can be misconstrued. So like if you tell somebody that you're paying somebody, you know, $10 an hour or something, and they're like, oh, that's terrible. But the average, you know, the middle class wage is 250 an hour, and all they need to live is $700 a month. Then you know, you have to put things in perspective. People like to think of things in the United States terms, but they don't realize that places like Costa Rica, the middle class income is like $800 a month, and that's middle class. So somebody making $800 a month here will be poor as shit. But in Costa Rica, they're great. $800 a month, they're living. You know, so a lot of times people don't have that worldly experience to kind of to pull from. So they don't understand that even that we as cultivator or people setting up businesses, you know, we have the ability to pay people 4 times and 5 times what their normal wage is there, and still it be economically feasible for us. And to me, that's a win-win. I don't feel like we're taking advantage or anything. It's a 100% benefit all around.
Absolutely, especially in a place like Zimbabwe that is inflation and, you know, instability with the value of their dollar. We can offer stability because all of our money is coming from internationals. None of it's coming from local invest. Well, not none of it, but very little of it's coming from local investment. So that, you know, you don't have to deal with any kind of as far as the employees go, they don't have that uncertainty of, oh well, what if this happens? Will I lose my job? Is the value of what I'm getting paid going to change? No, it doesn't. Not with us. So it really offers them the stability that they simply do not have with working with local companies. You know, it's a great way. Again, I love to say this: greed for good, right? Let's take the greed from the cannabis industry and funnel it into good energy.
Yeah,
So.
you got it, man. You got it.
All right, well, I think we're gonna wrap the show up here before too long. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us, and I wanted to try and do a quick show. I know we're kind of off schedule from the Tuesdays and Thursdays that we normally do the show, but I've had kind of a whack ass schedule, and we tried to do a show on Thursday, but I was having the upload here at the other hotel where I was at was really bad. So I was ultra choppy, so we decided not to do the show. So I do apologize, but we will try to get back onto some kind of schedule here. Certainly after 2 weeks, once I get into my permanent residence, we'll be all set. So and we'll have a nice guest room all set up for you too, and out at the
Awesome.
house. So,
We'll have to do
hell
a
yeah,
joint show when I get there.
hell yeah, joint show in multiple ways.
Yeah, exactly. You got it. Well, man, I'm gonna bounce, man. Thank you so much for having me on, brother.
Tell people how to find you if they want to learn more about what you're doing.
Just check me out on Instagram. It's just my first and last name, Joshua Steensland, and same with YouTube. So those are the best ways to reach me. Instagram, you probably get the quickest response time. So if you need to reach out and chat, but if you just want to see what we're up to, that's how you find me.
Awesome. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate
Thank
you
you,
taking
brother.
time to come on the show.
No, thanks for having me, man. Thank you.
Hell yeah. Cheers. And you guys can find Marty at APMeds, APMeds at Gmail, APMeds on YouTube, and APMeds on Patreon. He does a bunch of really cool private content over there. And you can find me at Potent Ponics on YouTube, SoundCloud, iTunes, all the different podcast apps. Again, I apologize for the weird schedule. I just want to try and squeeze in an episode. I felt kind of bad that I kind of let the community down for taking such a long time off. I just had to deal with, you know, my mom passing and then just a bunch of travel, an ungodly amount of travel. So finally getting my feet back on the ground, and I miss you guys. I really support. I just wanted to take 2 minutes and just say thank you so much. I think I got condolences and a whole bunch of things from, gosh, probably 60 or 70 different people from the podcast. Just thank you so much for your love and support. It really meant a lot, especially in a moment that was very trying in my life. And yeah, just thank you so much for your love and support. I just can't say thank you enough. So thanks again for all of that, and really appreciate it. And yeah, we'll be back again. Sorry for the short episode. I do have a couple of cool guests. We're working on getting Symbiosid from Switzerland. They're the current largest aquaponic cannabis producer in Europe. We have them lined up as a guest. We also have a woman. Hold on, let me make sure I get her name right. Candace. Trying to remember what her last name is. 1 second here. Candace. Candace Evans, who is working on an aquaponic, or kind of a beginner's guide aquaponic cannabis book. We're going to have her on the show. And then we're also working on trying to get the guy from African Plant Hunter on the show as well. And then because I happen to be on this time zone, I think we should have a much easier time getting Jorge Cervantes on the show. Him and I have been playing tag on email for a very long time. So I think we will try to get him on the show as well. So, and we have a couple of other cool people. There's some guys down in Malawi and some South African guys I've been talking to about trying to get some more African growers on, especially with the industry blowing up over here. I think it'd be really cool to try and bring some more traditional growers on, and we'll work on getting that on. So thanks a lot, everybody, for supporting the show. Once again, you can find us Potent Ponics, SoundCloud, iTunes, Android podcast, all the different places. And we'll be back again probably sometime this week. No promises. I'm going to do my best. I kind of have a wonky schedule the next 2 to 3 weeks, and then my house should be done, and I will be able to move into my new spot out by the grow. So that will fix a lot of the technical issues that we're having now. I'll be able to set my desktop back up and actually run everything the way we normally used to do it. Thanks a lot, guys. Much love for all your love and support again. And we'll see you guys again here soon. Peace.